just some main concepts from here that I think are more relative to the training and exercise side. In the cardiovascular chapter, you definitely, guys, you want to feel comfortable with understanding, you know, what the cardiovascular system does, how blood flows throughout the body, the function of the heart. You know, but from a training standpoint, I think a lot of our practical application is going to end up coming more from the actual understanding these different zones that we'll get into later in the course. I do think, though, that a little bit of what they talk about with our breathing mechanics and breathing muscles is very important, partially because most people don't breathe very well. And some of you guys probably have experience with this or work with people in the same way. But many people walk around day-to-day breathing from where in their body? No, like all the way up here, right? And that's why everyone's walking around with like kinked up necks and traps and everything else, is because a lot of us end up using these secondary breathing muscles as our primary breathing muscles. And even talking about like diaphragmatic and belly breathing, well, those should just be breathing, all right? But the thing is when our body finds itself in a state of stress, or because of life and, you know, lifestyle and posture and everything else, we find ourselves in positions that aren't optimal for breathing, well, it just kind of creates a cycle for a lot of people, where it actually becomes very hard for some people to even learn how to neurologically create those connections and breathe further from their diaphragm and from their midsection. And really, it's like people say it's belly breathing is one thing, but really most of it's rib kinematics. It's expansion of the rib cage and then contraction of the rib cage. So one thing, just as a coach and trainer, you'll do people a great job just by looking for it. Doesn't mean you got to be a breathing expert or a breathing coach, but you know, reminders and coachings and cues on position. You'll often find it comes along with this. Exercises, people find themselves with neck and trap. You'll see it, people walk in this way too. You know, just so you understand, inspiration, expiration. When we inspire, right, the diaphragm, this umbrella-shaped muscle, contracts and flattens out. What that does, creates a pressure differential, draws air into the body. All right, that's like our primary breathing muscle, at least when we're at like resting state, right? Inspiration, breathe in. And then at resting, like right now, for the most part, resting, expiration, breathing out should be relatively passive, right? We have the elastic elements of our lung, also of our rib cage, that should just do their job and push the air out. Now, I know all of you guys are crazy, and you like burpees, and you like high-intensity exercise, and at some point in time, you've probably found yourself at, like, you know, again, these higher levels of breathing. Now, when we get to higher levels of exercise or stress, and we need to expire more air, what's the bigger driver there, do you guys think? Is our body like in massive need of getting in more oxygen, or is it trying to get rid of something? The main driver of increases in breathing rates and bringing in these larger muscles is our desire to get rid of CO2. Right? And as we start to even get deeper later in the course into our different cardiovascular training zones, as we go from steady state right now, you guys are very much at a resting state as far as our energy demands. As we go from there, resting all the way to highest levels of intensity, our needs for carbohydrate as fuel go up increasingly. And as our needs for carbohydrate go up, generally CO2 comes along with that and our anaerobic metabolism. And really, yeah, so especially when people are at like super high levels of exercise, hyperventilation, your body's just trying to get rid of the toxicity, it's trying to get rid of CO2. We're probably getting in enough oxygen, you know, for what we need and what we're accomplishing. So just, again, more so information and facts, but all of our other core muscles, all these like intercostal muscles, when we are trying to get rid of you know, that CO2 at a higher level, those contract to create that brace. You guys tell me though, while we're exercising, for the general population, how do we breathe during an exercise? During my goblet squat, all right? How am I breathing throughout? So controlled, but is there a certain point where I should be breathing in, breathing out, holding my breath?
Inhale down, exhale up.
Yeah, I mean, easiest way to think about that for the general population, and especially because, you know, there's going to be performance reasons why we'll do Valsalva maneuvers and breath holding. But for the general population, especially if, you know, as we get with clients into even more special populations, we're thinking about blood pressure. Easiest way to keep blood pressure appropriate and controlled is to exhale during our exertion. All right, so inhale, exhale out. And it's, you know, I'm sure you guys can relate. And my client in here this morning, every session, every exercise, you're breathing backwards. You know, like breathing, it's like there's so many things they're thinking about anyways, and then breathing. But it will help to keep blood pressure down. That's going to come up with exercise anyways because we are exerting ourselves, but keeping it controlled. Now, why might we and when would we hold our breath during an exercise? Valsalva maneuver, yeah. Also called the poop move. I know you guys know what I'm talking about, right? So that's really what we're doing. Creates intra-abdominal pressure. Now you won't forget it though, because I said poop in class, okay? Yeah. It's the same jokes. Yeah, it's my dad. All right? But yeah, based on the weight, and honestly, even for clients who maybe they're not moving heavy weight, but teaching bracing in the, especially bottom positions of exercises, squatting is one of those, right? Because a lot of people may lose as we get down here. If we lose tension and stability, then you lose it there. So breath, just a momentary. It could be, as I'm coming back up, I'm already breathing. I don't want anyone passing out. But it will help, and you guys have probably done it during exercises and know, as we're doing resistance training, with especially you'll find like squatting, deadlifting, like lower body, hips and bracing, it'll definitely help to create more contraction in the core.